Thank you. Thanks. Brian, I was telling him, please don't overdo the story, and he certainly managed to do that. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, Michelle, Sunset Technologies, for having us here. And Women in DSO, we found it in actually 2021 with Dykema. That's where our launch event was. And that's where Women in DSO first panel happened. And after Dykema, this was our second panel. And why I wanted to share why that's important, not just for women in DSO, but for industry. There are so many talented women in doing lion's share of work in different organizations. But what happens is we don't always get to hear from the people who actually are doing the work. So that's what Women in DSO's mission been, to bring all those women, represent their work themselves. And when they speak from experience, they speak from heart, and I have seen deeper learning, and them taking all those experiences back and helping their organization. So that's what Women in DSO's been, and it's been an easy work because women have a lot of talent. They have been leading this industry by default. It's just 85% women in dental offices and all the way up. And all we had to do was just get out of the way. So it's been easy in that regard to highlight and showcase everything they've done. So we are at a technology summit, and with my experience in working with DSOs and private equities and mergers, acquisitions, I have noticed that technology has been a large part of evolution. Dentistry has never been growing the way it's been growing. In just 2022, in surveys, it was noticed that dental practices grew by 60% overall as an industry. And even this year, it feels like it's not growing as much, but by the time year's gonna end, it's still be growing very similar, 57%. So it's not as powerful of a year as it was last year, but it's still growing strong. And when you think about it, it's you can't cross 10 cars on a sunny day, but you can cross 10 cars on a rainy day. Why that happens is some cars slow down, they're clouded, and that's what happened with COVID. COVID put technologies and innovation on steroids. So we just had to think different. We just had to come back with new challenges, and even though industry is growing, the labor challenge has been biggest ever, and there's just no solution. A lot of our frontline employees are now Uber drivers, so they don't come to work. They have flexibility, work-life balance, and similar minimum wage kind of positions. So as this room is full of innovators, full of technology-savvy people, so every time you're thinking about innovating, think about what is this impact, and I feel impact has to come from patient care, people, and then your purpose and culture of the organizations. If we can keep all these three things at the core of innovation, we'll be just fine. So that's all I wanted to share about when you're thinking about best practices, keeping those patient care, and that any technology, how is it going to make patient care better? Bringing that patient loyalty for practices, that's what we all want. And then when it comes to integration and other things, we want to make our people's job easier, their life better, make them feel like they're not stupid. I think a lot of times technologies come in and they make people feel incompetent and obsolete them, and that's where they don't embrace it very well. So with that said, we have 3 of our Women in DSO members. I would love to invite them, and we are just going to dive deeper into all these conversations. So please join me in welcoming Nina, Mackenzie, and Tunley. Hi, guys.
Hello.
So I have known all 3 of you over so many years, and I think a lot of them, all 3 of you don't need much introduction, but I'm going to make you all kind of share about it. Mackenzie, you're in the middle. No one starts in the middle, so I'm going to start with you.
Let's do it different. Why not? Well, nice to, I actually know quite a few of your faces in the room, which is nice. I'm Mackenzie Fagan. I'm the National Sales Manager for Henry Schein One. So I get the opportunity to work with our most strategic accounts. So whether that's emerging groups, newly formed DSOs all the way up to our national DSOs that are implementing any one of our platforms. At Henry Schein One, obviously we are the technology subset of Henry Schein Dental. So we have several different products, actually 60 different products, and we're in the works of consolidating those to make the user interface even easier and better for our DSOs to be able to utilize several different vendors and partners in one place, which we'll talk about a lot today.
And I want to point out Henry Schein One is not Henry Schein, so I make that mistake often. So, and with that, Tenley works with video. Tenley, what's new with you? I've seen you in many years with different companies, so it'll be good to get an update.
Tenley Nelson, I'm Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Vidya Health. I've been here about a year on the AI side, but I've been serving dentistry for over 20 years. Introducing new technology, disruptive technology into dentistry, serving on the patient engagement side, then practice and analytics, and now bringing AI into the industry as well. Vidya Health AI diagnostic tool. We basically are taking the images and x-rays and applying annotations on to essentially really aid and assist the clinicians to help them diagnose disease earlier, but also to help with case acceptance, treatment acceptance in regards to trust with the clinician to the patient. Team alignment is important, just making sure that everyone is on the same page. They're all looking at the same x-ray, the same detections, and understanding exactly what's going on with those patients. There's also a big component of it in the ability to take the x-rays from historical visits and being able to apply detections to see if there's anything that has been missed, but also the progression of what was taken last year to this year and being able to actually kind of see the disease progression attached to it. Great.
Thank you so much. And finally, Nina.
Hi, I'm Nina. I am with eAssist. I have been in the dental space for about 23 years now. At eAssist, I am the director of our special markets team. So we are focusing on RCM for emerging DSOs and mid-sized DSOs.
Wonderful. And I couldn't be excited about this panel. I think we cover a ton of things we have been talking about in technology, what's new and upcoming. Yes, Dentrix is acquiring more and more companies, integrating things. But McKinsey, I want to start with you, because when we think about EMRs, it's a backbone of a dental office. You go into an office and even if you talk about, you have a courage to say, let's change the EMR or software of the office, you get a feeling like you're about to change the gut of the office, and then everyone hates you almost immediately. But with consolidation and as everything is changing so quickly, it's happening. So I think it would be good to hear from you. I know, yes, you work with Dentrix, and of course Dentrix is the best, but what are the other softwares, and what kind of things people should consider when they're looking at all these options? Curve is here, Planet, DDS. What are the options?
There's lots to answer that question. I think a good way to look at it is, if you're going to be making this switch, what is your foundational reason behind that? Right? It could be centralization, it could be standardization. Those two words are thrown out all the time. They're actually very different things, right? Are you looking to standardize workflows across your organization, make sure that your reports are the same, the type of data that your employees are putting in are the same that you're getting out? Or are you looking to centralize operations? Are you looking to develop a central billing office or eventually a call center, even if it's just in a particular practice, but it serves the remainder of your organization? Each one of the different platforms out there offers different solutions to meet those needs. So I think it's really important to understand what is your outcome, what's your end goal. But I think past that as well is also deciding a very critical piece, which I think has been talked about almost too much in the last several years, which is, are you going to continue to invest in servers, or are you going to go cloud, right? Are you going to start investing into an entire digital workflow? How can you take the responsibility out of the practice level, whether it's security, workflows, whatever it might be, and put that responsibility into a cloud-based vendor that could be backed by Azure or AWS or any one of those really large, sophisticated companies to now protect your data? So I think that's a really, really good place to start.
Yeah. Do you think I've seen sometimes people talk about how they are structuring their DSO. Is it going to be a different PC? How they want to compensate their associate doctors, and how they want to go about growth. Should they put all those things on the table when they are making their software choices, and how do they impact?
Absolutely. You bring up a good point in that I think that the software evaluation starts with several complaints, right, within the organization. Everyone smiled quickly because it's true, right? Maybe something isn't working fast enough. Mm-hmm. In my mind, those are small things. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is where are you going? If you want to be 10, 50, 75 locations and have specialty, have a pediatric department, have several different departments, does your software have the right infrastructure to be able to support that? Are you going to be able to pull providers' compensation across multiple locations, across different verticals, or are you going to have to pull that type of information from each individual location? Or are you going to have to put some analytics source on top of that in order to get that data? So I think it's making the right decision at the heart of it, no pun intended. I actually do say with groups that I'm working with, when you're evaluating your management system, you're doing open heart transplant surgery. It's exactly what it is. You're taking out your old heart and you're putting in a brand new one, hopefully for a longer and better life. But it's really scary and difficult when you're in the OR, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that you're evaluating the surgeon, all the different people that are going to be working with you to make sure that heart stays healthy and that the surgery process goes well is crucial.
That's great, and I've seen this because a lot of times people hear their dental assistants complaining about one thing, or someone in the back office about how they want to work with the claims, and they make this huge of a decision based on those things. And when they're getting ready for mergers or acquisitions, they have to invest so much more into just data extraction and making sense of it all. So I think even when you all are working with them, evaluating and helping them make decisions, it's really important to ask how your ownership structure for doctors look like. What are those things important to them?
If I can add,
yes,
I think it's really important even on the RCM function for everyone to really understand what that software will give them in the reporting aspect. That is one of the biggest downfalls that I see when we're talking to clients right now, is they really don't understand what their software can do or what the output is. And it's usually somewhat incorrect in how they're looking at it. So they often think that it's the software. So I think if you're going to change or you're looking into something, really know your why and what you're looking for.
And on that, I really recommend that you ask your vendor obviously as many questions as you can, but almost ask them to shape or customize their presentation or their offering to you to where you plan to be, not just fixing the problems that you have now. I can't tell you how often I'll work with, let's call it a 7 or 8 location group. They're on EagleSoft, Dentrix, Open Dental, everything. Their goal is to standardize. So they're looking at Dentrix Ascend or Enterprise or whatever it might be. And they're solving those problems that they have, but their goal is to acquire another 8 locations by end of next year. Well, by solving just a couple of those problems, still that could create more problems given those 8 locations that they're planning on adding on. So to your point, we have to start looking at operations. If you're going to be doubling in size, how can you make sure that your billing team, you're working where one biller can process revenue for 3 or 4 locations, not just one, and making sure you have the right software in place that can handle that type of volume.
I'm so glad you said thinking about where you're going is more important versus where you've been. And where we are going, artificial intelligence, it seems like going to be everywhere. So I know you all, Tanley, Vidya it's growing very rapidly and it's integrating. And with AI, it's great. It seems very dumb to even wonder why we need it. It's like, okay, we can't see everything, and computer's going to help us. Computer vision's going to help us see things that we are potentially missing. Seems no-brainer, but not everyone is utilizing it. So they buy it, they're paying monthly dues, but they're not utilizing. So I feel, in my observation, I feel integration has been a miss on how they're integrating. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and let me back up a little bit, because AI is just AI to a lot of people, but there are different versions and different levels. And so AI has been around since 1950. And it's basically the input of a large amount of data that's basically allowing an output of a machine to have human-like intelligence. And the first level of that is machine learning. And so it's large amounts of data that are coming in. And if you think about that first level, it's going to be like Netflix. You watch a show, and then the next thing you know, you have a box that comes up that says "for you," and it's almost predicting or ranking kind of what shows that you want to watch based off of what you've already done. And then there's another subset, which is your deep learning, which is basically taking all of that machine learning and trying to solve for it. So that's going to be more like your Alexa, like what's the weather today? Or even ChatGPT, that's more of the deep learning where you're putting an input of a question like, how should my sales rep call a DSO? And the output is Eminem, like my name is, or, you know. And then you have the next level, which is going to be your computer vision. And essentially that's allowing you to be able to actually see. And so that's going to be more like being able to detect breast cancer and then also caries on an X-ray image. And so I wanted to bring it down to that level only because I think that's what's really important about integrating AI into dentistry, because it's taking thousands and thousands and thousands of images and constantly learning. It's taking experts that are actually labeling that. And then it is putting that through the actual model of us building out all the different annotations and detections that we have. But it's constantly learning from all of our dentists. So the integration is so huge because allowing us to grab all of that data. So it's not just, hey, here's an image, here's a detection that we see, here's something that we want you to draw your eyes towards. Now we can actually track it all the way through with the integration into the practice management software to say, okay, the doc did diagnose this. The patient actually accepted it and completed it, and so it's helping that feedback loop with the AI, telling us that this is good, this is right, continue to do it. And if it's not, then we're going to continue to improve that. And so the integration is key there in order for us to have that feedback loop, to be able to continue to improve it, but also improve that patient experience and get greater case acceptance and ultimately better health across the board.
Tanli, when we were talking outside, you shared how different levels of integration. How did that play a role into usability of the software?
Yeah, that's a great question. I loved the panel before talking about the integration, how key and important that is in a practice, and making sure that you become part of their workflow. And not just trying to introduce a new platform, another 28th system that they have to log into and try to manage and all of that. But integration levels vary. I think the key thing is to make sure that regardless of the level of integration, there is some component that ties it in. The more you can embed it, the more you can make it part of the seamless process that they already have inside of their practice. And I think that's an important question to ask too, is every practice is different, so understanding their process and how the specific integration can actually work within that process. If you don't even have to ask that question, if it can just be part of their everyday, like if it lives and breathes inside of the thing that they're using every single day, obviously that's going to allow greater utilization and just kind of improve the efficiency and productivity, of the entire practice, so that they don't have to jump out and go over. It just kind of lives and breathes a part of their system already.
Yeah, this room is full of technology-savvy people, but I think in practices, if it's API integrated versus embedded integration, your adaptability and your usability is so different. So if any of your softwares can actually be embedded, it's just there. Even if people don't like your software today, they will end up liking it because it just lives there. And as you guys are everywhere there's a data is huge component, and you're making advances and getting technology better, one day you will be able to change that mind without even talking to that person. So I think embedded technologies are huge. And that I want to bring to Nina, because revenue cycle management, while a long time ago in my career, I learned that we want to create happy paying patients. So, because if they don't pay for their services, it's a form of value. Do they value your work? So revenue cycle is huge, and we have seen so much advancements and technologies and different things happening in revenue cycle. How all these technologies are helping revenue cycle management? Are you guys seeing any change?
Yeah, so I can tell you that clients who are using more of what she was talking about, things being embedded. Typically on the patient end, when we're calling to maybe collect a balance, patients they typically expect what we're about to say to them, right? Because they already knew it in the chair, it was talked about. So I do think the more tools that offices have, the better it is. It's easier to collect that money, whether it's from the insurance aspect or the patient. And then it also providers, right? They want that money as quick as possible. So the more tools and AI that's out there, it is better.
I mean, that seems like a no-brainer. Yes, absolutely. And but how do you all share that information with insurance companies? I think that's the part I want to know. And is it any better?
So I think it's easier. I don't think that it's better in regards to how insurance companies are taking that information. I think it's still very complicated and they're not on board. I think you can all agree insurance companies don't want to pay.
Yeah.
So it's easier, right, to collect all that information to send. But I still think we have a major roadblock in the industry when it comes to insurance companies.
Thank you for saying that, because I think there's just a misunderstanding out there that if you have computer vision x-rays, you can just ship it out and claims get paid. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done from AI side with the insurance companies. So I'm going to an ADP next week, and I think a lot of AI companies are there. So tell me, what is happening with AI and insurance sites? Would you mind sharing?
Sure. I mean, it varies across, the different, I think, strategy of different organizations and such. Ours specifically, we're working with payers on behalf of the provider, really trying to understand what they need in order to get more of those approvals. And so for us right now, we're taking, for example, we take our images and let's say an SRP is needed. We're able to create a claim submission in a PDF form that's going to give you the exact measurements that we see and find, how we found those, and then exactly what we're seeing on the specific tooth within the patient, original images, and then attaching the annotations attached to it. What this does is it basically is it's more of the qualification and standardization of the submission. It's not necessarily saying it's 100% going to get approved, but we're working with the payers in order to help us understand what information, what needs to be included in the narrative, what do we actually have to submit in order for that to have a better approval, opportunity. And then on behalf of, in general, the dental practice, it typically takes, 3 to 5 minutes to actually gather all that information and to actually get that out. Ours is now within a click of a button. We have the ability for the BAs, the front office team, who doesn't have that clinical experience, doesn't know what tooth number 9 is, being able to just have that information right then and there to be able to actually send. And so I think it's important to know kind of your strategy with insurance companies, but for us specifically, we're working with them to understand exactly what we can do on behalf of the provider in order to get greater approvals.
I think the efficiency of that is really going to move mountains. And I do agree with the BAs. They don't always know all that clinical stuff, and they shouldn't necessarily have to, right? They shouldn't have to explain to a patient where number 9 is or whatever.
Wonderful.
So I do think that that's amazing.
And all these things we do because we want to improve patient care. I think if we want to elevate our industry, we got to elevate what we are doing for patients. Mackenzie, I'm going to keep coming back to her because you hold the EMR side. There are so many companies and so many adjunct services exist due to shortcomings of EMR. If EMRs did everything, there will be a lot of companies that have no point existing. So how do you guys are thinking about that? Why can't we just make it part of EMR?
That's where we're going. In fact, you got me excited thinking about what's happening on the AI side of imaging. Really, if you can work with me and take a step before that, right? Meaning what happens when the image is actually acquired and where is it getting triggered from? At Henry Schein One, we believe that should actually start with the practice management system. Let's look at traditional, you have a Dentrix and Dexis, let's take it, or EagleSoft and Dexis, whatever it is. You're actually triggering the image to be acquired from the imaging system, right? But then you have to make sure that someone is actually grabbing that image and making sure that a claim is being sent. We took a very different philosophy at Dentrix Ascend, which is to embed the imaging system directly into the practice management system. So what this means now is in the workflow, your office staff is actually acquiring the image from the management system that's going to trigger any device that you're working with. Doesn't matter, it's hardware agnostic. So you're going to trigger that device. As soon as you acquire it, it's automatically going to trigger their device, name it, number it, orient it, attach the ADA code, and start the claim process, and also automatically update ReCare. Those are all things that have to be done manually with a traditional server-based management system that now can be done automatically in the cloud, which sets up the AI company for success. And also, I think that the purpose of this panel today is to talk about a better patient experience. I truly believe, and I think a lot of us believe, that a better patient experience happens with a better team or employee experience, right? When your employees know what to do, they're going to have bigger smiles on their faces. They're going to be greeting the patients. Just knowing what to do makes such a big difference. And that's really where I think EMRs are going and need to continue to go. How can we make the experience for your team more seamless so that your patients feel that as they're exiting the practice?
Thank you for saying that, because you're so right. People feel energy once they come in, and if there is energy is negative, no matter what a great technology and what a good, beautiful restoration you do, patients leave unhappy. And Dina, you all work with on the other side of the patients, where they don't want to hear about billing and they want all this. Their claims paid seamlessly, but when you're calling them, it's bad news. Either insurance didn't pay or they need to pay. So how do you all feel technology, if it was a better technology selected or better integrated and better communicated, give some of those best practices or gaps you see?
Well, for us, I think the biggest gap that I see is all the layers of things you have to log into to get the final result. So I think that a lot of times offices have these technologies and they aren't using them the correct way. They aren't pulling data the correct way. And in regards to the patient, yes, they want the claim paid. They want to know that from the beginning that the team there knows what they're doing and everything's going to be seamless. Did I answer? Okay.
No, but you said a really big point. It's like when you have to log into 5 different things.
I mean, we work with thousands of clients, so you wouldn't believe the amount of things we have to log into sometimes just for one client and just to get a claim out. And so yes, we're often talking to them about different technologies that are in this room so that we can make our job easier.
And I've seen similar problem even when people are working in one office with one thing and they have to log in multiple times. And I just don't understand. We are almost in 2024 and the kiosk model logins are not standardized. It's just so, it's mind-blowing. So maybe, McKinsey, are you guys solving for that?
I was going to just bite my tongue and just sit over here, but I can't help myself. I think that's moving to more of what we call SSO, single sign-on. How can we have all these different companies that are in the room be interoperable and work together, right? I can only speak for us at Henry Schein One. We've acquired or partnered with Vidya Health or several different companies to create this seamless experience. And where we're going and where we've gone in a lot of different products, but we want to go across all of our products, is creating one username and password for every single employee that accesses any one of those types of, whether it's products or white labeled, it doesn't matter. Meaning when you are a user and you log into Dentrix Ascend, you can have access to all of the different locations that user has rights to. You can have access and log into Jarvis if you want to use something like that. You can see the images. You can also go into insurance verification and see where the system automatically verified each one of your patient's insurance plan. All of that should be done with one layer, right? Yep. And then that's also what leads into multi-factor authentication that Patrick was talking about earlier, making sure that you have the security set up and all the different protocols in place so that when one person logs in one IP address, one time in the morning, that's when they can enter in their 6-digit, OTP, one-time password that everyone hates doing, but it's so critical. do that in the morning for when you log in, and then once that user is logged in on that same IP address for however many hours you have it set up to remain logged in for, now your employees are really efficient and they're secure. I think that's the key and where we have to go. It's inevitable.
Yeah. Great. And as we are our patient demographics are changing. Patients like to be in driver's seat. They want to know their options. We all know consumerism has been at peak. They want same things they want from Amazon and Apple. They want it from their dental offices. No one wants to give credit card. They want touchless pay, all those things. So with that said, I want to start with you, Nina. Is there like best practices when people are thinking about patient experience? Can they do a few things from the very beginning in terms of technology, not just when patient check-in kind of side, but when you're setting up your offices? Think about, you know how people remember things, how they end. Yeah. That's what people remember. And if they end badly due to revenue cycle management, the whole experience becomes bad. If it's at the forefront when people are thinking about technology or building offices, is there some best practices you think they should be considering?
Well, not to sell my own service, but I do think that outsourcing is a really crucial thing. And the reason I say that is most of the people in the office, you hired them because they're great at making patients feel good, right? You want them to feel good. They shouldn't have to sit there and worry about any RCM function. That causes such a stress in most BA's lives. So that would be the first part of it. Also, I think that best practice would be helping your team understand your true vision of what you're trying to accomplish. Because a lot of times, if you bring an RCM team or you change your software, that creates stress to them, right? So I think really setting up your internal team to understand where you want to go and why you're going there and why you're making the choices you're making. It's to make their lives easier. It's to give the patient a better experience. So that's really what I think. I think it's investing in your team to help them understand.
True. Tanli, what do you think is some best practices in terms of integrating for patient experience, long-term success?
I love this question because I think you have to back up and see the entire experience from the patient. It's not just when they walk in that door. It's prior to that, it's when they're even trying to find a dentist. And so a lot of it has to come down to what services you're offering as a practice, but making sure the entire team is aligned and making sure that they're all trained and up to date on it and on the same page. It's not just because AI, for example, doctor looks at this or the hygienist. No, I need the front office team to understand this because they're going to be aligned with that entire process as well. And so it's implementing according to current things that are already in place, but when you're actually integrating a new piece of technology, a new system, making sure that you already understand what their current process is and not just like a set it and forget it or here you go, good luck with that. It's actually understanding how you can implement it in a personalized way because every practice is different, every team is different, every process is different. Even if they have the same platform, same systems, they use it different. Their communication is different. And so understanding exactly how they operate inside of that practice and integrating it accordingly, not just kind of the way that you want it to be implemented, but actually trying to customize and personalize it a bit so that the whole team now has that buy-in. They understand it. Everyone is speaking the same language and is aligned. And it goes back to, at the very beginning, like the entire experience of the patient. If the team isn't aligned, if the team isn't on board, if the team isn't trained, somewhere it's going to break down with that patient. And so I think it's really important from just a training and onboarding perspective to make sure that you really understand exactly what's going on in there in order for everyone to just have the best experience possible.
We have been talking about do's. I want to hear some don'ts. So when you guys go into an office and do you see like some kind of secure information out there, what are the don'ts you all, when you go into an office, they don't have video, you're new, what kind of things you all see and can we learn from those? And are you even comfortable sharing?
I got to think about it for a sec. I would say for me, don't make assumptions. Go in not assuming anything from a
True.
practice, but from just like security wise and such, I think it's always important to talk to the team members about the importance of the information of the patient and making sure that you're really taking to heart, just you throw out HIPAA, you throw out BAAs and all of that. What does that actually mean? And making sure that you're actually holding that very strong and true, and you are a person that has access to all of this information. And I think it's important for team members to actually understand kind of the, consequences, I guess, of not taking that really true to heart and understanding that there's some very personal information that you have and you can take that home on your phone, you can, whatever it may be. And so making sure that you just kind of lock in the door. I think it's important for us to always, talk about that as well, even though we're not the EMR, we don't host all of that information. We can come in and at least help, I guess, talk about the importance of that, when it comes to team members not necessarily understanding how critical it is.
You're being very gentle, but I think we all know the truth is we go in and there's credit card information, social security number, driver's licenses, someone forgot, or credit card sitting in the offices. So I think but whenever I get floored in front of technology people, when you all see these things, people don't wake up in the morning and they say, I want to do something bad. They want to do good things, actually. Just unintended consequences happen. So there are some limitations in the softwares today. Nothing runs fast enough. Nothing runs efficient enough that they have to take this card and hold it, write it down. So I think we know the importance of keeping all this information secure. And if we could build things where there is a place to have this information, because there's a reason why they have been constantly taking this information. I love to say that, train your team, but come on. They are trained, they still keep doing it. So there is some kind of another barrier that's not letting them stop doing this. So I think I want to, yes, Mackenzie, do you all have something like that?
Well, just a thought on that I think that's the whole point of software,
yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the whole reason that we're here. That's what your technology should be doing for you, is allowing your employees to focus on their day-to-day jobs. And when Tenley was talking, I was thinking about how your patients need to be connected when they walk through the front door and when they walk out the back door, right? Think at all the different conferences you've been to, you hear about, the intake of patients and retaining your existing patients. Well, there's all sorts of different ways that you can do that, but how's it being tracked and recorded? And all of that has to be done through the management system where some central source of truth was being talked about earlier, right? So when I think of, your marketing platform, if you're doing, some sort of SEO marketing so that your patients find you on Google or find you on Facebook, or even if it was a referral, but they Google that doctor's name to find out the name of the practice and book online, is that being tracked in the same place that are tracking how your patients move throughout your practice? And then also recare. How are you making sure that they're getting back into the office? Are you tracking those separately? When we talk about don'ts, that's what I see a lot. I see that there's a new patient marketing tool, there's a practice management system, an imaging system, an analytics system, and about 8 different things in between. How are you really making sure that central source of truth is tracking those patients all the way throughout that workflow? And I do think that's where AI comes in, right? Not only is AI helping the doctors, but it's also helping with case acceptance, so that you can get more patients to come back in for whatever type of procedure that they need. And I think that's what's missing and what we're moving towards, is creating that seamless workflow all the way, I would say throughout the practice, but it starts before that. It starts when their tooth hurts, right?
Yeah.
How do they find you?
And it goes beyond the practice if you're a DSO and you have a corporate back structure.
Exactly.
So as we're concluding here, I heard Michelle has Bloody Marys in lunch, so I don't want to be between you all and Bloody Marys. But some parting thoughts, Nina. As you are thinking about integration, what are some key takeaways for everyone in terms of revenue cycle management? How can it help with better patient experience? If you were to say, forget everything, do this one thing, what is it?
I don't know that I would say forget everything, but I think ultimately really, like you said, patient experience really starts before people come into the office. And then I think from there, it's really setting the expectation of what your office stands for. In regards to RCM function, I think that my biggest, if anyone walks away with anything, I think that people should get comfortable with outsourcing or creating an internal team that is working with an outsourcing company. Because as all of you are acquiring more and more offices, it's really hard to scale that internally and go back to patient experience. You're really just stressing your internal teams out. So I think that building it together.
Okay, wonderful. Tanli, how about you? Any key points you want us to walk away when we are thinking about integrating AI with softwares or practices?
Yeah, I think when it comes to integrating AI, it's such a new technology that there's still a lot of unknowns and questions around it. The data that we're pulling in and the results that we're getting, there's a clear ROI attached to it in patients saying yes because they see it. They have this visual aid. It's almost providing a talk track, if you will, for the team to be able to present this to a patient in a way that they now understand. Instead of, hey, look at this black and white image. Do you see that? I don't see anything. It doesn't hurt. I'm fine. But now they see a red line. And it's like, oh gosh, I need therapy, And so there's just a different communication that's being able to happen and occur from the clinician to the patient. And at some point in time, the moment that you experience, and I can say, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I will not take her to a dentist without it. Because I want to see that. I want to know. And it's just now something that I believe in and I trust, not just because I work for a company that does it, but because I actually, as a parent, now can have that conversation with the provider and say, okay, baby girl, like I'll take care of you. And so I think at some point in time, it does become a little bit more patient-led, but the more that you can understand how to incorporate that into your daily communication, your team alignment for the dental assistant or your hygienist to be able to preheat that patient, all of that goes to the communication and presentation of the patient that's going to have that better experience and ultimately say yes at the end of the day.
You said a really good point. We all think we know AI now from 3-4 years. Patients don't. And I think one of the big things dental offices can do is making sure it's part of their marketing material and on their website. So patients come in as educated as they can be. Mackenzie, any parting thoughts on best integrating practices?
Parting thoughts would be don't be afraid to invest and make the change. We've all been on a Dentrix or an Open Dental or a standard system for a really long time, but I think that it's really evident where our industry is going. And it's not just our industry. Look at medical. Look what happens when you go and see your MD. It's a digital experience, and that's the way that we're going. There's a lot of great vendors even in this room that you can talk to about different management systems. Make sure that you have all of those different elements included. And I can promise you from the tons of different customers that I've worked with personally, it actually ends up being cheaper for you in the end. So if you have a long-term goal, whether it is to sell or to continue acquiring, financially, the numbers play out for you. So take a look, do your own research, and that's my advice.
I've learned so much from all of you from our offline conversations and here, and we didn't even touch digital workflows purposely. I know someone might be thinking about why didn't we think about it, because I think that just calls for its own panel. And that's another thing I just wanted to kind of, before we leave, as you all are innovating, thinking about digital workflows and putting patients in that driver's seat, having them, they are going to have access to all of those models and impressions, digital impressions, which they didn't have in the past. They wouldn't know what to make of it. And with that also comes, kind of how to protect their information and how they are going to disseminate that information. So please think about those things when you're building things. Don't give us another to-do, another thing to train our staff on. We don't want that. If a system can do that, that's what gets adapted and enjoyed. So thank you so much for having us. And Women in DSO, I think Brian mentioned, we have our annual event March 6th through 8, Las Vegas, Resorts World, Conrad. So please join us. We are going to have intimate workshops a day prior where vendors can set up with appointments with their DSO. So we will arrange those on Wednesdays, and then we have a full day of educational material on Thursday and half day on Friday, Vegas, March 6th through 8th. It's a really cool Malaysian casino. Casino is kind of in the background of it. It's a really nice place. So I hope to see you all there, and thank you so much for having us.